What's going on, YouTube? This is Daniel Rucker with Treu Table. Welcome to the table. Going live. As I told you guys, I had announced it earlier on my Instagram, same first name, same last name, Treu Table, as well as doing a post on my actual YouTube channel. Just getting things situated. I'm letting the air run a little bit. It's a little warm over here on the West Coast. So I'll give it a few minutes to let the stream go out. But today we're going to be talking about you guys' favorite topic, single mothers. I told you guys I will be continuing to bring more content in regards to this particular topic in space. And I believe that it was time to do a video live in regards to this topic, doubling it down and reiterating. Why? Is because it is an ever-growing issue. It's something that's going to continue to plague our society because our social norms and dating and stuff has changed. But like I said, I'll give it another minute or so, get situated, and grab my water, and we're gonna get cooking. We're gonna get started. So give me about a minute. I'll be right back. You guys get settled in, and we'll get cooking. Thank you. Okay, all righty. All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Get a little drink of my water. I'm trying different angles, different setup. I'll be the first to admit I am not a media guru. I am not one of them dudes that understand, angles and lighting and all that stuff. I don't understand all that. That is a skill set amongst itself. However, I do believe that I have a keen understanding on relationships, intersexual dynamics, female nature, male nature, being a man myself, and I have a vast amount of experience. So why I bring this content to those of you who are new to my channel is because I believe before it became a thing, before Manosphere, before Red Pill, I've been having these kind of conversations, specifically around how men see things, how women see things, how there's a disconnect. And it constantly seems that there is a disconnect ongoing. And a lot of it, I think, is just more pronounced now is because of social media, because of the social dynamics and how things have changed so much. Things that you guys are dealing with in your 20s and maybe early 30s or whichever, I didn't have to deal with in my 20s as much. And now that I'm in my 30s and I'm seeing the shift and the changes, it's just wild to me. It's crazy. So I started this channel, I think about 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago now. And it's an upgrade to the channel I started years ago. My original YouTube channel is called The Hard Knock Lessons of Love. I had a few videos on there, had the same intent. Wanted to start talking to men, talking to women about relationships. I didn't stick with it. Life was happening. I had a lot of distractions at the time. And that channel is still live. If you want to go check out, from there, it's then till now. A lot of my perspectives are very similar. I'm just a lot more knowledgeable and aware of things as today. Anyway, so what motivated this broadcast was this topic, out of all of my topics, seems to be the most popular. And as much as I want to discuss finance, as much as I want to discuss self-esteem, as much as I want to discuss the dynamics of masculinity and all of the things that make up manhood, I have to be one to understand how people receive information. And pretty much numbers don't lie. If I've done hundreds of videos at this point, a little over 200 and some change. And out of all my videos, single mothers seem to be the thing. I had a gentleman actually comment earlier today or yesterday, I believe. And it was, pretty lengthy comment, which I appreciate, but he was telling you about some of his challenges dating a single mother. And I think as I continue to have, my corner of impact, my little impact at this point, and I am, having men reach out and share, like, wow, it further motivates and inspires me to stay diligent. I'm not going anywhere. Whether my channel goes super duper viral and grows crazy, that'll be predicated on you guys and the value that you believe I'm bringing. But I'm going to do my part. As long as YouTube is alive and well, I'm going to do my part and upload videos, upload lives, stay in chats. I jump on panels, regularly around these topics because I want there to be more of a male presence and awareness. And from someone who I believe has a unique outlook. A lot of the things I discuss may sound similar to some other people in the space, but most of what I believe they are talking about comes from their collaborative talking points from other creators, which is fine. Collaborations is great, but it's interesting now to hear the verbiage through the mouths of people I've never met. KS was one, Myron Gaines from Fresh and Fit is another, AMS is another, like these prominent figures. And it's just wild to me that I've had these conversations in my close circle for years and years before YouTube was a thing, before we did this. But anyway, so that is my soliloquy, my reintroduction, whatever you want to call it. Let's get into it. Why single mothers is such a problematic, situation and whatnot. I think what happens is that when women have children, and for whatever reason they have them, we all know sex happened, somebody got pregnant, and she had a child or children. Regardless of the fact on how those children got here, she had children. Now, why I titled this "What Single Mothers Get Wrong" is because they tend to take offense to the fact that they are a single mother. However, some start in that position, some end up in that position through a number of things. Usually it's a relationship that she was in long term, maybe even a marriage. But at some point, the status of her interest for that man she had children with changed at some point. And I think what has happened in more recent years than not is that more women have popularized the individualism of motherhood. They have popularized the individualism of parenting. They have popularized the single parent household. This was not a thing in the 80s, in the 90s, as it being popular. Now, it was a thing, but it wasn't a popular thing. Socially, women would avoid certain social circles if they had this lifestyle, because it was such an embarrassment to the fact that she, as a woman, was looked at as not being capable of keeping a man, of not being capable of holding down a household. Now, fast forward to 2023, people think that the outlook has changed. I'm here to tell you it hasn't. What has happened is that it's so prominent now, and it's affecting more than one demographic of group. It's not just the Latinos and the Blacks. It's not just inner city. I believe, gosh, I didn't do the exact research, so I'm paraphrasing, but I know it happened, I want to say maybe 10 years ago, that there was a popular show by the name of Teen Mom that was on MTV. And this was a different, this was a different class of girl. This was a different demographic. These were some, some Caucasian folks. These were some, other demographic. And I think that's when the shift started. When MTV decided to turn on the camera and then follow these Caucasian people who had kids. I think that's when the shift changed. I think that's when it became a popular thing. I believe at that point, we started to see the shift on what you're seeing now. And all that has happened is that it's been a decline. Single mothers are operating and dominating a huge sector of the space. Now, being a single mother is not a cancerous type of situation. It is not a complete demise to your life. But I think that no one is telling women that when you choose to have children, the amount of responsibility you have, how your life is ultimately going to be changed. It's not just the stretch marks. It's not just your body changing. It's not your hormonal imbalance. It's not just that. It is the choices you make within the relationship that you choose to maintain, and it's the choices you decide to make if you decide to end the relationship that you have with that child or those children's father. See, navigating the world after you have a child is completely and utterly different than before you have a child. Pre-child, way different. Your choices do always have consequences, but they directly only affect you. When you have children, children, dating, whatever, it's a completely different landscape. Nobody's talking to women about this. And I've noticed it on my one-dimensional interaction. I've noticed it through watching content, reading articles, listening to conversations. There is a glossiness over the eyes of most women who have this particular lifestyle. No one is telling them that you have to make better choices now that you're a mom and now that you're a single mom. Now, some may say that's unfair. Some may say, why do you hold single mothers to a higher standard of the choices they make? Glad you asked. Because at this point, she is directly responsible for the youth of the future. She is directly responsible for the little people that she is teaching or not teaching. She is going to be ushering in the next group of the generation. If she does a piss poor job, she will be pushing out citizens into society that us people who are getting older have to deal with. The degenerates, the uneducated, the hostile, whatever it may be. That's just to name a few. And I think that somehow, some way, single mothers think that they're entitled to romance at a higher level after they've decided to walk away from whatever connection they have with that father. That's where I'm going to park for the next few minutes, because this is very important in helping to shape this conversation. I would argue that a single mother has to bring more value faster than a woman with no children. Some may say, well, that's not fair. Like, why does she have to be better? Why does she have to give you more? I'll tell you why. Because she is coming with a particular set of variables, a variable or variables. One, she created a child or children. Two, she has directly instituted a family, regardless on if she is good with that father, he's good with her, vice versa. Don't matter. The man that's going to come into her life is automatically going to have to deal with her baggage. What kids think they have the pride in a relationship. Exactly. Thank you, champ, for the chat. Yeah, I could talk about that. For some odd reason, there is a disconnect. And I know media has helped. I know some of the pandering has helped. Some of the simps out here have helped. Being a single mother is a choice. Being a single mother is not an accident. I do not care how many times women try to say that it just happens. No, it does not just happen. Your clothes don't just disappear and dissipate, and then you end up naked somewhere, whether you're in the back of the car, in a park somewhere, bent over a balcony, and then all of a sudden you're impregnated. That's not how this happens. How this happens is that at some point you decided to have sex. And I'm pretty sure you had sex more than one occasion. I hate the argument when women try to say, well, it was a one-time thing. Maybe that one time, but it is not an often occurrence that you were a virgin, then all of a sudden had sex once, and then now you're trapped. And someone's not teaching these women correctly that your choices have consequences. that when you decide as a woman as a woman with ovaries, you are in a very powerful as well as a very dangerous position. Having the ability to house life, usher life into the atmosphere is a very powerful position. It's a very responsible position. I would argue we need to do psych evaluations. We need to put them through some type of pre-session, schooling or training as they transition, because sex ed is not enough. Somewhere the psyche of women is not being challenged to understand how serious it is when you have children. And then to couple that, when you decide to leave the father, I'm not going to sign up and hear that every single situation that ends up as you being a single mother is abusive. Because if that was the case, then how did you get to creating the baby? I wouldn't expect that the abuse just started post-baby, that the abuse just started after the fact. A lot of times, women, regardless of if they have children or not, but especially if they have children, women love the story. Women love the drama. You don't believe me? Go out to any local bar, social atmosphere, and camp around women and listen to what they talk about. They spend more time trying to connect to each other through trauma, through who's doing worse in a way that is traumatic. It's always some guy that did them wrong, some guy that stood them up, some guy that lied, some guy that cheated, so on and so forth. And it dawned on me years ago. I was like, wow, misery truly does love company. Like they corral around each other to share drama stories, which is sick. Something's really wrong with this situation. And instead of taking accountability, because I've yet to hear women in mass, especially single mothers, say it was my fault. I chose. I made this decision. I screwed up. I missed the signs. I allowed certain things to go down. I allowed certain things to transpire. I've yet to hear that, yet to see that. And a part of the problem on why this is a continual situation is because most men want relationships with a woman with very little of a past or a track record. What it confirms to any man when he's dealing with a single mother is that she's definitely not a virgin. She's had sex. How many times? God only knows. But we know for sure she's had sex. We also know her ovaries work because she has a child, whatever. And then questions that you wouldn't have to ask a woman without children arise. Well, what's the relationship between you and the father? What type of visitation structure do you have? Do you have a boy or a girl? How old are they? There's so many things that take away from the enjoyment of just getting to know a woman. And somewhere in single mother's mind, they really do believe that most men want to wrestle with your past. And this is what they get wrong. Most men do not like the challenge of trying to overcome your bad choices. That's one of the things they get wrong. And you'll hear this in their verbiage when they start saying things like, oh, well, you can't handle a strong woman, or you're too weak because a real man would be totally okay with my life and all of the things that I went through. I was young, I made choices, I made mistakes, whatever it may be. What I hear is immaturity. What I hear is a lack of accountability. What I believe most men would love to hear is her be able to tell you how she got to this point and what steps she's taken to improve upon her life. I would love to hear that in mass. I would love to hear that more often instead of directly using the man as a scapegoat of him being a terrible person and a terrible individual that put her in this situation, because obviously she's a victim. Obviously, in the free country that is America, somebody forced her to have a child with all of the birth control preventive measures we have in place. Another thing single mothers get wrong is that men love kids that are not theirs as much as kids that are theirs. Like, I will do my best to try to speak for most men. I think inherently that men have good hearts. Inherently, I think most men. I think that if a man is in Target or at the park or something and he sees a kid, kid's ball go somewhere or whatever, he'll pick the ball up, toss it back. If he's at Target, I seen a child the other day, they were actually trying to find the mother, and it was a bunch of men actually trying to find this kid's mother. So men corral around a child, the innocence of it, generally speaking, right? But that care is compartmentalized. Any decent human being sees a child, there's an innocence there. You're gonna care, you're gonna protect, whichever, however. But it's a whole different level when you are directly dating the mother. And when you're dating the mother, now you inherit the responsibility of a child you had no assistance in creating. Most men do not want to walk into a stacked situation. Even men that aren't gambling men like better odds. Dating a single mother is not good odds. It's horrible odds, actually. Some of the comments in my previous videos are sharing with me the stories, and a lot of them being horrific on what men are actually encountering trying to go up this uphill battle in dating single mothers. Another thing single mothers do get wrong is they believe they don't have to work as hard. They believe they don't have to show value. They believe that they are the prize, like my man Champ said on the video. This couldn't be further from the truth. Single mothers are they're problematic from the situation if they are still in a transitional stage of maturity, which a lot of times they are. Somewhere in the female psyche, they don't seem to understand how they got here. They talk like life happened to them instead of them making choices. And the men listen to the sound of my voice. Any woman that does not know how to take accountability for the good choices she made, the bad choices she made, the choices she made, period, is a woman you need to stay far away from. It's on dating sites and single mothers. Oh my God. Champ, you were 100% correct. The worst part about that comment that he's making about the dating sites is that they highlight being a single mother at the top. The name, the age. I'm a mom, proud mom, mom first. If you don't like kids, swipe left. Which segues me into my next point. Ego. Every woman has an ego. Every single one. Haven't met one without an ego yet. But single mothers, wow. The amount of ego they have is borderline toxic, if not just pure toxic. They come in with a predisposed mindset, a preconditioned mindset that you owe them some level of attention, loyalty, effort, assistance off the rip because they decided to have a kid. And since they are giving you the privilege of getting to know them because they're a mom, because they obviously could be doing something else, right? You have to come with more value in their mind. This couldn't be further from the truth. A man that is choosing to date a single mother, tread softly, tread with caution, but that man needs to have a serious conversation with that woman if he decides to take on this battle. What does that conversation consist of? I did a video probably 2 years ago now, kind of talking about this, alluding to what it should look like. What it should look like is if you decide to date a single mother, that woman needs to be so organized. She needs to be so mature. Her life needs to be so structured that it's like you're not even dating a woman with a child. She needs to have her network steady. She needs to be making a healthy amount of money. She should not be looking to you to do absolutely anything but get to know her on a one-to-one basis. Her children should be left out of the conversations that you guys are having. Her life that is her motherly position should be secondary to the experience that you're getting. If she cannot showcase these characteristics or these types of attributes, recreational fun only, keep it moving. the reason why I believe dating a single mother is so problematic is because I do not believe the market was set up to do it. I do not believe that the world anticipated single mothers being a thing. I do not think that when we constructed relationships, how we designed society to function, that single mothers were a factor. I do not believe that. I don't believe any governing body believe that. I don't think men overall believe that. And so it is an anomaly. It's almost like a virus in a sense, something that we didn't anticipate happening. And why it is shifting the way we are interacting as men and women is because the natural design was for men to be interested in women, women to be interested in men. They get to know each other. They decide what kind of relationship they were going to have. Maybe they get married, maybe they don't, but they were going to create the dynamics of their relationship together. Nowhere in our design as humanity did we sit back and be like, okay, well, if she has a kid from somebody else that she no longer thinks is qualified to be in her life and parent the very kids that they had together, well, we need to figure out how we're going to assist this anomaly, this malfunction, because it's a malfunction. And that's the problem. There is no right way of going about it. It requires a lot of conversations. It requires two mature individuals if they're going to date. But it really requires a woman who is a full-fledged, optimal female, optimal woman who understands that her life is her life. Her responsibilities are her responsibilities. And what's crazy is that when you think about it and it really starts to unfold, future birthdays are going to be a problem. Christmases are going to be a problem. If you do decide to be with this woman and have your own kids, well, how does that household look? How do you navigate it? How do you separate your children you birthed together and then the children that were there before you got there? And then how do we bring a blended family together in unison, authentically? Why does a man have to be met with such challenges? And the fact that more women who have the situation don't sit back and think about it from that perspective is the main problem. And I'll park here for the duration of this broadcast. Until single mothers understand that your lifestyle is what you created, that you're responsible for, that you are fortunate, blessed, and lucky if you find a man that finds so much value in you that he can look past the mistakes or choices that you make. I would say the only grace I would give a woman with children is if she was married and she is a widow. If the father of her children or child passed away through some situation, war, sickness, whatever it may be, because that woman I can give more respect to because she made adult choices. She looked at her life and she made proper choices. She put herself as well as her children in the most optimal position to move forward in life. She was not trying to be out here and be irresponsible. She was not trying to create the future degenerates of the world. She was not out here just pumping out humans without a plan, a foundation, a structure, protection. That's a woman I could respect. That's a woman I would endorse if men are going to date single mothers, which I know they're going to continue to because there's so many of them and it's fine. Then I would say that she would have to be in that particular situation. If that is not her particular situation, then like I said previously, she needs to have a network. She needs to have a structure. She needs to be having a lifestyle that has no lack. That you coming in, you're not here to lift. You're not here to escort. You're not here to assist. That's not why you're here. You're here to get to know her. You're here to figure out if she's the woman that can go down the road in the future with you and the plans that you have set forth, and how herself as well as her potential children can be assets in that overall equation. Here lies the challenge. Most women automatically have a high sense of affection, as they should, for the children that they birth. And there's always going to be, unless you have a woman with a proper mindset, there's always going to be a battle of value. especially if you're coming into a situation with a pre-made family. This is why I encourage most men to stay far away from this situation, mainly because it's not going to benefit you in the short term or the long term. Unless you have a woman that truly, truly divests from her motherly position to understand that she's woman first, potentially wife second, mother third. That's extremely hard to do with most women, especially nowadays. The immaturity is at an all-time high. The lack of accountability is at an all-time high. And most women, I will argue, are not emotionally prepared to be able to live that lifestyle moving forward. Most of them come from broken homes. Most of them come from a lack of structure. Most of them don't have the wherewithal to know how to sit in their embarrassment a lot of times, their lack of planning, their wrong emotions, because a man that's going to come into this situation is going to have questions. He's going to pull her life apart, and he's going to have new demands for her that maybe even the father of the children don't have. Maybe even her family doesn't have. Maybe even her children don't have. Is she ready for that? Is she prepared to actually be that type of woman? I would argue no. So what most single mothers really get wrong is that this is an ideal situation for a single man with no children, or even a single man maybe with children, but his life is together, whichever, however. It's not a simple solution. It is not an ideal situation. Single mothers get it wrong that men are clamoring to be with them, that men are in line just to sign up for potential drama, potential headaches, potential battling of position and power in the household that he creates. So that is what I want to talk about today. Thank you for those who joined the live. Had to get this off my chest. More content to come. I appreciate those who chimed in. Went about 30 minutes or so. I'll be coming to you next week with another video, maybe on this topic, maybe something else. If you have not already done so, go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe. I appreciate you guys. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Till next time.